Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
Hello everyone, it's Mark Kelly here and you're listening to the AI in Action podcast, and I am in Icon's HQ in Dublin, Ireland, and I'm speaking to Tony Clarke, SVP of Icon IT Digital Ops. Tony, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
So Tony, delighted to have you on the show today. What I'm really interested is, before we jump into some of the innovations at Icon, your background and career, because you've done an awful lot and you've wore so many different types of hats. And I can imagine you've got loads of scars where things have gone wrong and things have gone right. But it'd be great just to hear if you could just tell me though how you got into the role that you're in now.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a varied background. So I started off in electronics at college, really enjoyed the challenge and the complexity of it, moved more into, and then realized that, or became exposed to cybersecurity, and that was really appealing to me. Complex, challenging, the idea of breaking into a system and the challenge of that. Since then, I've moved into a little bit of AI and more general kind of IT operations, which is equally as challenging and as complex, particularly with the fast pace that technology is moving at now.
Having that kind of consulting hat, do you think that kind of helped you for getting the role you have now?
Yeah, I think so. You know, there's a lot you learn in consulting, particularly working with the client, understanding their needs, understanding the context in which they're, particularly on the security front, what you're trying to give them assurance over, but also managing expectations, delivering a report, working to timelines, communication, working through problems. That's all very helpful. In years gone by, I also worked on a service desk, which I also found extremely useful later in life. Didn't realize it necessarily at the time, but dealing with people who are irate or people who had challenging problems and just navigating the complexity and the people dynamic of that as well.
I definitely think that's helpful when you're trying to define a problem, because you're walking in those shoes where you've seen it from different perspectives, that customer. Tell me a little bit about your role currently at Icon.
As you mentioned, SVP of IT Digital Operations. So my remit is pretty broad. I suppose the most succinct way of describing it is the day-to-day technology that runs the organization. We have the responsibility of maintaining it, supporting it, making sure it's available, and also enhancing it into the future. Everything from our service desk and the hardware that staff would be provisioned when they join the organization, to the applications they use, the data centers those applications sit in, our public cloud environments, how we work with the business in terms of issues that they may have, and then the HR technology, financial systems, and supporting and enhancing those into the future is all part of my remit. So it's a big team. It's almost 450 people spread throughout the globe. So there's always challenges, there's always some uniqueness and oddity in the environment, but it's a really exciting role. And obviously, as Icon's mission is to enhance the lives of patients, it's really a rewarding role as well.
So when you think about the impact of size, and Icon's probably around 44,000 people?
It's about that now, yes.
So choosing the most impactful project versus the wouldn't it be cool snare versus the people are shouting out and screaming, but how do you go and start to define that and work with your team to choose something that's actually going to make a difference, either from an employee side or from a customer experience?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Mark. I think we're quite pragmatic in Icon. So we really tend to lean towards what is going to make an impact. We're not as distracted in some respects by what's new and what's shiny. We work in a regulated industry, so we're very conscious about how we manage change in the environment, the compliance aspects, and what we need to consider in selecting technology and delivering projects. We're also very focused, given we're a service-based industry, on being efficient and being impactful. So we do prioritize initiatives that are going to deliver benefits for our clients and our sponsors, but also enhance our ability to deliver at speed. One of the things certainly within my team we talk about is, and this is a guiding North Star for us, is does it make a clinical trial go faster, or does it help us support the business in making a clinical trial go faster? If our answer is no, or we're not sure, then that's not a project that's a high priority in our mix. Now, there's other reasons why we might need to do something for compliance reasons or from a support perspective, but we really do want to make sure that we're supporting our business and our business stakeholders with helping them conduct clinical trials efficiently and effectively.
By having that North Star, you've actually been able to introduce different AI projects and automation, leveraging some of these large language models. Would you talk me through some of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Really exciting area. Obviously, lots of media attention and hype. So again, we try and be pragmatic and practical. So we, as a regulated industry, obviously are conscious about how we operate, but at the same time, we want to be effective. There's areas, certainly within my group and our remit, where we see large repositories of information that may be difficult to navigate through, maybe difficult to find, where people struggle with getting an answer and maybe finding an ultimate path to information that they're trying to obtain. And we've worked with a number of our business colleagues to create large language models that would help navigate ICON's technology ecosystem, so we can ask about what applications we have, who are the various owners in that. We're also doing something similar with our legal team in terms of things like master services agreements and being able to ask specific questions. Also what we call our standard operating procedures, our policies and procedures. So we can ask simple questions like, what is ICON's password policy? And instead of finding the right document in our policy system and finding the right version and then finding the right page, you just have this kind of quick answer, but also with those kind of explainability elements where you link back to the policy and people can delve further if they need a little bit more information.
Which is wonderful because you've got the information and the data, then you've got a tag to the source. You're allowing it to be accessible. So somebody's working in either procurement or finance or HR or legal, they can access documents. There's also the element where you can compare similar documents where you redlined or you put in amenable text, which then saves so much time and effort from toing and froing and documents being sent across to different managers, different departments, which significantly gets rid of the grunt work for employees and just allows them to do better quality work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean. We're very focused on efficiency. So anywhere we can take cycles out or we can remove some complexity or roadblocks or hurdles, that's something that we're going to lean into. Sometimes it's a kind of pathway to get there. We might have an end goal in mind, but it might take a few releases or iterations along the pathway to get there. But even on those journeys, we find that even step one often introduces so much simplicity and efficiencies that in of itself, it's a good kind of first step, and people are genuinely thankful even on step one of the journey.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Within such a big company, so many different stakeholders you're trying to manage, how do you keep an eye on that diversity of stakeholder, that they feel like they're getting their questions and answers completely done and they feel like they're happy with the service? Talk me through that approach.
So it is a challenge. I wouldn't say that we've necessarily high maturity in this area. So we tend to initially work. So I suppose most initiatives start as a concept. Do we think this is possible, or is there some benefit here? We try and move quickly into a small initial POC. So give us some of your documents, try and help us with some of the questions you might want to answer and ask of a large language model. And then we see, is that viable? Is that realistic? Or is it possible to get reasonably good answers? And then we kind of work with them, the business stakeholders, to mature that. And often they have not thought too much beyond that. And even when you get to that point, they have better ideas and more mature ideas of where they would like to go in the future. So it's a path that's walked on both sides. And then we kind of work to set expectations about what's achievable in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, etc. We tend to try and take an iterative approach, so we don't try and have a very concrete scope that's 9 months out or 12 months out. We'd prefer to look at what could we do in the next 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then incrementally build upon that.
And the team dynamics and managing through people and not trying to micromanage and see all that, how do you try to help take through that next generation, empowering, but also trying to ensure that people all feel like they've got a role?
Yeah, really good question. Probably an area where I increasingly spend a lot of my time. So I think the diversity of a team is quite important. So I personally have spent a lot of time trying to build a team that isn't full of the same type of individuals, that isn't all male, and does bring an element of creativity to problem solving, disparate and diverse kind of backgrounds. So we have people on the team that would have been accountants. We have people on the team that have come from completely different backgrounds than IT and technology. And that's really important, not just to build technology, but also to support it into the future and to put yourselves in the shoe of the client. And also as well, as we'd probably all like to think that technologies become simpler and easier to use. I think the reality is, or certainly from my perspective, is that it can be complex to integrate. It is more integrated. There's a lot more data, and that brings its own challenges and complexities from time to time. So you do need people who can think a little bit out of the box, that aren't purely, I won't say indoctrinated, but purely trained in a typical IT pathway that brings the kind of same thinking to the table. So that's been something that's really important. We're also lucky enough in ICON to be global, so we have people from all walks of life, all parts of the world, all different religions and backgrounds and cultures. And that's something that really does add to the team and makes us stronger ultimately.
So you got close to nearly 1 million hours of automation being helped put into business via kind of your AI agents. The CEO, I know, has got an ambitious goal to improve productivity and save people time and effort and ultimately helping your customer on their journey. Where do you see the next projects? What are you looking to do?
Yeah, interesting. In a large organization, there's always more we can do in terms of efficiencies and automation. So I think there's probably more roads that we can run there. I think the whole concept of AI agents is particularly exciting. So a lot of use of large language models is that swivel chair kind of use where somebody is working on a document or some task and they have a question they want to ask, and they turn around, point that question or put that question into a large language model and maybe get an answer. I think where it's going to be really exciting is where you can get to that outcome. So maybe it's completing that document for them, or working on that RFI response, or maybe it's an onboarding and creating accounts for staff or contractors or whatever, where you can get to the outcome and it's less about that transactional question or even maybe a couple of questions in a conversational style. If we can get to the outcome for business processes, I think that would be really exciting.
Yeah, I saw some new updates today about Microsoft with some of their agents, the agents working together. And now we've got companies that are setting up the payment gateway. The agents can make the purchase.
Wow.
So rather than actually you signing it off, you can empower them to do that. So that step now literally becomes, from a household perspective, we're out of toothpaste. The AI is looking after all that. You don't even need to worry about your local shop because it's going to manage that through your smart fridge, or you've lost your phone and it's going to be liaising with the providers and then making the purchase, and it's in your hands. So it's exciting. It's a really exciting time ahead. Tony Clarke, SVP of ICON IT Digital Ops, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.